Hi guys, my name's Catherine. I'm one of the tutors here at Chegg. I typically tutor science, some math, English, and Spanish. And today we're going to be talking about a scientific topic, the metric system. So what the metric system is it's a way of measuring things, whether that's length or weight or volume or bytes on a computer, in a way that is really easy to convert from one unit to another. It measures things just as accurately as something like the system we use in the US, which is things like miles or ounces or cups. But that's not as easy for transmitting converting from one to the other, which is why the metric system is popular in the majority of the world and is also used by scientists, including scientists in the US. So like I said a second ago, popular units of measurement in the metric system are things like the meter for length, the byte for computer things, seconds for time, grams for weight, and then liters for volume. And then you would use a prefix if you needed to describe the size of things. So technically, for example, you wouldn't use hours in the metric system. You would use like Deka seconds or something, but most people use hours because it's more practical in terms of what we understand. But if you wanted to do a lot of fast calculations, maybe you would do it this way instead. Things like ounces or miles are not part of the metric system, and neither are tons, although there is a such thing as the metric ton, but that's not too typically used. So as I said, after you've decided what unit you're going to use, say you're doing length, so you're using meters, you come over to this table and you figure out which prefix you'll need to use. So 1 meter, which is 10 to the 0 equals 1, 1 meter is just a meter. But if you wanted to do more than that, say you have 80 meters. You could call that 80 meters, or you could call it 8 decameters, because 1 decameter is 10 meters, 10 to the 1. You could say, if you wanted to go higher than that, if say you have 100 meters, that's a hectometer. But you could also represent that in either of these ways as well. So for example, 1.2 hectometers is the same as 12 decameters, which is the same as 120 meters. Kilometers, or also known as kilometers, is 1,000 meters. A megameter is 1 million meters. A gigameter is 1 billion meters, and a terameter is 1 trillion meters. Although, as you might guess, these aren't used all that much. You're not usually measuring things in trillions of meters. But they are used for other things like bytes, maybe. And so, however, say if you want to go in the opposite direction, the thing that you're measuring is actually less than a meter. So the first thing you could use is decimeters, which are tenths of meters. There are 10 decimeters in 1 meter. And so, but if you want to go down another one, centimeters are hundredths of meters. So for example, 80 centimeters is the same as 8 decimeters, which is the same as 0.8 meters. Going down even smaller than centimeters, we have millimeters, which are 1,000th of a meter. We have micrometers, which are 1,000,000th of a meter, nanometers, which are 1,000,000,000th of a meter, and then picometers, which are 1,000,000,000,000th of a meter. So we're getting super small. As I mentioned before, it's really easy to convert between different units in the metric system, so long as like this, the part that comes after the prefix, I guess the suffix is the same. So meters to meters or seconds to seconds. You can't convert from grams to meters because that doesn't really make any sense. You know, how heavy something isn't the same as how long it is, unless you have something in between to convert between the two. But say, for example, let's use how many centimeters are in a kilometer or a kilometer. So a centimeter is, let's type it actually. So centi is 1 times 10 to the negative 3, right? Which you can see here. Ooh, gosh, to the negative 2. That's wrong. That's where we check the table. And then kilometers is 1 times 10 to the 3, or 1,000th. Times 10 to the 3. Okay. And here I just did 1 kilometer, but let's make it a little bit. Actually, we'll leave that one, but 1 second. Let's change this one down here to that number, but we'll get to that in a second. So in order to do this, all you have to do is to divide one times 10 to the 3 by 1 times 10 to the negative 2, where you will get, of course, 1 times 10 to the 5th. So there are 1 times 10 to the 5th centimeters in a kilometer, which is the same as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 100,000 centimeters in a kilometer. Alright, and so next we're going to use hectobytes and terabytes. So hectobytes, as we saw before, hecto is for 1 times 10 to the 2, or 100. To the 2, and terabytes, 1 times 10 to the 12, which is a trillion. Or tera, rather. 1 times 10 to the 12. Okay, so here, what you're going to do, but you actually have 1.2 terabytes. So what we do here is 1.2 times 10 to the 12 over 1 times 10 to the 2. So 1.2 over 1 is really easy. It's just 1.2. And then over here, 10 to the 12 divided by 10 to the 2 is 10 to the 10th. So 1.2 times 10 to the 10th. And as you can see, this is a lot easier than having to do, say we were doing inches in a mile. Instead of it being 10 to the 12th and 10 to the 2, you would have to say, well, there's 5,280 feet in a mile, and then there's 12 inches in a foot. And, you can still do that math, but it's a lot harder, and it takes a whole lot more time than this does, which is why this is more popular. So that's it for the metric system. I hope that you enjoyed this video, and if you have any questions, I am always available for private tutoring on Chegg.